Happy Thursday, hockey fans. Welcome to the final edition of the week of Morning Cup of Hockey. Alongside Colby, Cohen, I'm Jonny, Lazarus. We are brought to you by Betway. If you're going to place a bet on Betway. Please play responsibly. And remember, you must be 19 years of age or older. It was a tough game one for the home team, the New York Rangers, last night in the Eastern Conference Final. We're going to talk about it a little bit, just the two of us. And then we're going to bring on Billy Jaffe from the NHL Network, who Colby and I are good friends with. We'll be talking to Billy at around 9:10. Then we'll talk about the Western Conference Final on the back end of the show. So a lot to get into today, as far as the news around the league yesterday too. So we're going to bounce around a little bit today, but it's going to be a lot going on. And Colby, what were your initial thoughts last night of game one?
Well, I think we saw last night why most people are, sort of consensusly picking the Florida Panthers to win the series. And it was kind of a very Florida Panther-esque way to play. They wear you down. They don't cheat. They're very patient with their offense. This is a team that might get a couple of opportunities, and they never seem to get horny, right? They continue to stay on top of the puck. They continue to, do all the little things well that they do. But I would say, Jonny, the biggest thing for me is really what we talked about on this show yesterday. My concern was the D core of the New York Rangers and their ability to sort of handle the heaviness of the Florida Panthers. And one area where the New York Rangers really struggled with last night was breaking the puck out clean. And Florida did such a good job of, placing pucks strategically, self chips, making sure they kept the puck away from Igor Shesterkin for the most part. And they just continuously beat Fox and Gustafsson and, Trouba. I mean, you can go right down the list. I thought Keandre Miller probably, broke the puck out better than most last night for the Blue Shirts. But
even when he did, he had one great one in the third period. Then Nick Cousins stripped him and came in,
But I just mean as far as getting back on pucks, I would assume that's an area that Peter Laviolette will address with them today. They have to get back on pucks harder, or Florida is just going to continue to create offense. I think back to, a point in the second period where Adam Fox has an opportunity to get back on a puck. I texted you about it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. Lomberg gets on the inside of him, beats him to a puck, kind of wiggles it free behind the net. And then all of a sudden it leads to like 45 seconds of offensive zone possession, which is capped off with a Sasha Barkov chance right on top of Shesterkin that, he doesn't get anything on and doesn't end up in the back of the net. But, Florida just kind of wears you down. Like, it's not sexy. It's not tic-tac-toe. It's Tkachuk wheeling around the walls, dropping pucks down below the goal line. Bennett, same thing. You kind of move around their lineup. I thought the fourth line of Florida had an impactful game. I thought Stenlund played pretty well. I thought Lomberg was good on the forecheck. Look, I just
Paul Marie said in the post game he thought that was Lomberg's best game of his career.
Really? I didn't hear him. I didn't see the post game interviews. Obviously, you did. So, look, I can keep kind of going through the areas where I thought the New York Rangers had a difficult time and the Florida Panthers succeeded. But before I continue on, you were boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of insight into what that was like, because honestly, the building sounded quite quiet on television, and maybe that was just ESPN. I don't know the audio, or it was just quiet.
No, it was quiet. There were moments where it got loud. Like Trouba threw that big hit, I believe, on Stenlund in the third period, and the Rangers generated those chances. It was Wenberg, who had that rebound right in front. Don't know how he didn't score there. I mean, Bobrovsky made, one or two really good saves on that little flurry. But there's one stat, Colby, that I wanted to give you that really, to me, is the difference of the game. And I actually thought the number would be worse, but the giveaways. So the Rangers in the game had 12 giveaways. The Florida Panthers only had 2. Mm-hmm. And that's what we had talked about yesterday, right? The Rangers going back on pucks. How are they going to handle breakout with Florida's pressure? And early on, you could tell Florida's forecheck was getting to them. The Rangers had no response. They had no answer on what to do with the puck when Florida was hounding them. And on the flip side, the only line that was able to get the puck behind the Florida defenseman was really the fourth line. The Rangers didn't generate anything of a forecheck. The Trocheck line had maybe a shift or two where they had a little bit of offensive zone pressure. In the first period, the third line of Chytil, Kakko, and Wenberg had a great shift, but then, later on in that period, the Florida Panthers fourth line had them headed in their zone for like a half.
Yeah.
So there wasn't much.
Look, I don't think Jack Roslovic is going to do much in this series. I know you praised him on the show yesterday. You and I are very...
I'm not. He's not one of the guys that I'm like, Colby, that I'm, I exaggerate sometimes, but I'm not like Jack Roslovic's the best player in the world,
No, but I think he gets you more excited than he gets me. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I thought in that third period of Game 6, he played very big in a critical period of the series.
Right. So my issue with Jack Roslovic is that you look at his career, and there's a reason that he's literally gone from first lines to fourth lines his whole time in Columbus. The amount of times I would watch the Blue Jackets play and he'd be up at the top of the lineup. And then with Chicago, we'd see him 2 months later, he'd be on the fourth line. There's just no consistency to his game. I don't think that there's a lot of bite to his game. How many times does Roslovic pass up the opportunity to finish a check? And again, to a naked eye, you see him and maybe he looks a little sexy because he skates fast. He's got some quickness. His hands move fast. And so, you're like, oh, okay, there's something there. His hockey IQ is awful. His reads without the puck are awful. And I would say more than not, he possesses the puck and gets absolutely nothing done with it. It's all around the outside. It's end up in the corner, have the play killed. There's just not a lot there. There's not a lot of substance there in his game. And I think the Florida Panthers team IQ is really high. Like, you look at the way their reads happen, whether it's in the neutral zone, whether it's defending the rush, whether it's sorting out chaos around the net in the defensive zone. It's, the Florida Panthers have incredibly high hockey IQ as a team. And I know that's not something people generally talk about. Normally we're talking about individual hockey IQ, but when you have a player like Roslovic, who, in my opinion, lacks hockey IQ, and lacks that sort of extra effort and bite to his game, he's going to have a difficult time in a series against the Florida Panthers, who seems to always have the next man in the right position. They always seem to make those rushes, whether it's a 3-on-2, a 3-on-3. Gaps are strong. Communication is strong. So I just think Roslovic is going to be an issue. I saw a writer in Boston last night. I sent it to you guys. I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head. He was all butthurt about the hit on Chytil at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Said this is a loser play by Mikula. And honestly, the tweet was a loser tweet because no player is thinking, oh, I'm not going to finish my hit because Filip Chytil has a concussion history. It was a clean hit. The puck was right there. And the reason that I'm talking about that, Jonny, is because I think that Filip Chytil is going to find himself up the lineup in game 2.
Well, he did.
I know
played on the first line in the second period.
In a blender, and let's bring Billy in, because Billy was boots on the ground, and he's working this series from multiple angles. So let's bring him in and we can ask him about it. But I think Filip Chytil is potentially an answer to moving up that lineup. So, Billy, it's good to see you on our show. I think the fact that we've been doing this for 4 months and we haven't had you on is kind of surprising. So how are we doing this morning in dreary New York City?
First of all, it's been way too long. I can't believe it either, guys. Jeez. I mean, it was second of all, I don't know where my hat is. Otherwise, I'd put it on backwards to fit in. But I'm much older than you guys, so I probably looks even more stupid. I'm good. I'm good. I'm in Midtown, right? Manhattan, all good. Yeah. Waiting to actually, after this, to go down to Florida Panthers media availability downtown. It's saying it's going to take me 30 minutes to go 1.8 miles or something like that. So maybe
you don't ride the subway? You're too good for the subway?
Absolutely. No, I just, I just want to it's early in the morning. I want to get out of here and I want to get down there. I might ride down to the subway or walk down.
Jonny, if you don't know the subway, if you're not good at it, that can be that can be dangerous when you have somewhere to be at a certain time.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Yeah,
you could end up in Brooklyn without realizing you're on the wrong color line. So
it happened to me once. I ended up in Coney Island by accident.
Billy, are you doing radio as well for the Eastern Conference Finals, or
Yeah.
just NHL Network?
No, I'm doing both. Sports USA, part of myself and John Allers and Brian Hayward, and NHL Network on site. Kind of analyst report, host, fun, that kind of stuff. Hits and everything. And so this morning, heading down to go see the Panthers. Rangers are out in Terrytown today, so I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to go from downtown to Terrytown in less than like 4 hours. So I think for today we're doing Florida. So keeping very busy. And I thought last night was. I've seen it now. I saw it last year from Florida and Boston. I've seen it this year recently as last week, Florida. It was an absolute clinic of a road game again for the Florida Panthers. They have a way about them right now that you have to respect the heck out of, because it is repetitive. It's not always pretty or sexy, but man, is it effective. It is. And by the way, it's not boring. Stand back in the neutral zone and do nothing. I mean, yes, they protect the neutral zone when it's the right situation, but they go, man, do they go. They are just, and it's that repetitive tenderization process on the forecheck. You could see by the end of the first period that the Rangers defense were like, oh, wait. And 4 of the 6 turnovers in the first period were off the stick of Rangers D-men. They haven't seen it yet. That doesn't mean they can't adjust. They just haven't seen it yet in their playoffs.
But Billy, one thing about that game that Colby and I were talking about before we hopped on live here, in my opinion, and our producer Vic actually agreed, so I want to have it known that I'm not alone here. I thought the Rangers had the better quality scoring chances in that game. I thought, if
that's the exact comment that the Boston Bruins made. Like that they would have the better chances, and at times they would. And I'm not making fun of either. I'm just saying that's what the Panthers do. And you know what they don't do? And I don't mean to interrupt you, but sorry, I did, John.
No, you're good.
Is so the Panthers get the saves when they need them, right? And Rangers didn't last night. I mean, you can talk about that first goal, like, holy smokes, right? Like that changes. It's just one goal, but it changes the temperature an awful lot of what's going on. You guys know as a player, like, okay. But they got some good chances, but they didn't finish. So chances are great, but they're going to have to finish. Again, the Bruins must have had 9 or 10 breakaways in that series, last series. You know how many breakaways they finished?
Probably 0.
1.
Oh, 1.
It was Zacha in the last game.
That's right. Yeah.
1. And therefore they didn't finish enough. And so that's what the Panthers do. They make you say, we had good chances. We're there, but you got to finish. Now, Rangers can do it. They are skilled.
Yeah.
I was jumping on. Yeah, they're going to make adjustments. They got to tweak their lines. They got it. You guys were talking about they have to tweak their lines.
One area too, Billy, that really just became so obvious to me as that game rolled along was the pace that the Rangers did come up. Like when they had a set breakout or when there was a broken play that the puck didn't get, deeper than the tops of the circles, the D-to-D passes and the hinge plays that the Rangers were running, everybody in the neutral zone is then stopped and waiting. And that center field defenseman for Florida had 20 feet of gap getting back on pucks. And they were just coming out of their zone so easily, which as a forward, you guys were both forwards when you played. Billy played at Michigan, for those of you who don't know. Jonny, obviously, at UMass. And so you guys were forwards. How frustrating is that for a forward when you're basically just you're late to the puck? You can never really lay a hit because you're late. Then you're back checking, and then you're changing, and you're just constantly doing that. So what are the adjustments in the neutral zone that have to be made? Or, the Rangers are never going to establish offensive zone possession.
Yeah. It's a good point, because I was noticing guys like Mikkola, Ekman Larsson, even Kulikov. I'll call them their bottom 3 defense, and it's minutes wise, right?
Right.
But they're stay at home type of guys. I like they kept getting the puck and getting it quickly and getting it up, and then the Rangers had the Rangers very, very little. Boy, there was one shift in early the second period, right? No, they had a breakaway early the second period. There was one shift where they got a cycle going, they got a forecheck going, they brought puck to the middle. I'm sorry, I'm blanking the exact time. And you're like, okay, finally. But otherwise,
the first 3 minutes, Billy, of the second period, the Rangers had some jump.
They did, no question, but they did right, and exactly right, but they didn't finish. Yeah. That's the thing, but they did. You're absolutely right. But there was one shift where I marked in my head, I'm like, finally the Rangers get it, and they do what, they get the puck out, they get it in. So as far as I'm concerned, what I've seen, the Florida Panthers, not only in the neutral zone, this is part and parcel of that, but they do a really good job of the defensemen standing up. They're very aggressive, but also their forwards are, so you got a guy, I'll call it sealing and then pressing. You got the D who kind of seals or gaps, and then their forward press into an area, and they kind of a swarm, whatever. They get it, whether it's the neutral zone or just inside the blue line, and then they get it up quickly. The Rangers aren't built to be a dump and chasing. Johnny, you guys, you see them more than I do. I mean, you see them a lot more. So you don't want to dump and chase. You want to positionally place and retrieve. I mean, I know that's, semantics, so to speak. But
place
it's real.
Right. That's real. That's a real thing.
That's what they have to do. But can they? I'll ask you guys. Can the Rangers win a wall game of attrition with the Florida Panthers?
I don't think so. But also, to that point, Billy, the Tkachuk first goal, Artemi Panarin skates the puck with possession over the blue line, and all of a sudden there's 3 Panthers around him. He doesn't get a shot off. They strip him, and then boom, the other way they go and score a goal.
Gap and seal, baby.
That's what they do.
And wasn't that? And didn't the goal that let the no goal that was correctly called no goal? Wasn't that off of? Didn't Fox bring the puck up a bit too and try? And then again, everybody's it's a seal and gap or whatever you want to call it, and then they go back the other way. Florida's transition last night was excellent. The Rangers wasn't. The Rangers did not get clean entries much. So what do? That's going to be the chance. I mean, maybe you got to get a banger on each line. If I remember correctly, Cooley played 7.5 minutes last night or so. I mean, you see him more, but I know he had 5 or 6 hits in the game.
7:45.
Okay, and hits can be, you might see it one way, I see another. Regardless, can he? I'm using him as an example. Can you put one type of guy on each line to be the F1 and to go and at least try to establish better retrieval?
Yeah. Well, that leads me into this. Oh no, Colby, I gotta ask this. I gotta jump in. Unless, do you have a point to make or a question?
No, go ahead. You're good. Go ahead. You're good.
Well, now the worst thing that could have happened is the Rangers lose this game the way they did. They don't really get much in the forecheck. That game was not very physical at all. Like that's what I asked Paul Maurice in the post game. I was like, compared to Boston and Tampa, there was like no after the whistle scrum. There was nothing.
But the point of emphasis for just so you know, Florida said before the game yesterday morning, right? Discipline. They respect the Rangers power play so much that was the number one key. So sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. But it was so obvious. And the question I now have to ask, which is what we're going to hear now for the next probably 28 to 30 hours, is
yes, do it.
Is that a game where you need Matt Rempe?
Probably. Now it's. You don't need to go completely like, oh my God, the world is fun. Come on, it's one game now.
But it's a real thing, and it's something that can't be ignored.
It can't be ignored. Can you, if you're only going to play your fourth line 7.5 minutes? Okay, right? I mean, they don't play them much in the third, right? So, and especially if they're chasing the game, so to speak, if they're down, I think it would also give energy to the building. I do.
It was dead.
Part of it was Florida did that right away. They did their thing and they took out, but I've been there and that building is rocked before. Rocked, pregame and warm up and anthem and all that stuff. I don't know about you guys, but it was a different vibe in there. So
look, I'll tell you this. I have friends that live in Florida. They're big Florida Panthers fans, right? Their family, they actually used to own the Florida Panthers before Vinny Viola, their family. Same last name as me. They wanted to go to the game last night. They were going to fly up from Florida, go to the game in New York, but they like sitting on the glass. And they sat on the glass at the Garden, at the Boston Garden, Billy. They were like the 5 red jerseys right behind the goal that they kept showing. Those are my friends. They said that the tickets in New York were like 50 times more expensive. No exaggeration for those seats. That they were like, you know what? It'd be cheaper to just buy a box. And then they looked into a box and they were like, sorry, the corporations have them all completely sold out. So like They couldn't even barely get into the building. That's how expensive the tickets were. And look, it's the world we live in. It's the reality of prices. It's a business. I get it. Dolan wants to make money. Like, it's all like the Rangers got to make money, but I think they're pricing a lot of people out of that building. I really do.
It's always been.
Yeah, but you could, there's a handful of buildings that you can say that about. I mean, if we want to dovetail into that, that's a whole nother conversation. But there's definitely a handful of buildings where the average fan has been, left to go to a handful of games at most versus being there regularly. It's just the way it is. But I think the building needs energy.
Yeah,
Rempe's a possibility. Why not? I mean, at this point, I'm watching. Why not? Now, can he play smart? Can he not, react, to try and do too much early on? That would be a watch for type of thing. I think with the right, mindset and the right coaching, being coached up, being talked up by the coaches, I think he could. So there has to be something, though. There has to be tweakage. You mentioned Hedl. You guys think that Hedl could move back to center regularly? You think he could do that?
It just depends on his conditioning, because we know that no matter how much you practice, no matter how much you ride that bike, there's no conditioning like playing in a game. And between the first game that he played and the second game that he played, I mean, it's been 2.5 weeks almost since he played.
He also didn't play a lot in the third period too.
No, his minutes were low. He was not like the minutes he got in the first game. I think that giving him a little less responsibility along the walls, although the walls against the Florida Panthers,
you don't move your feet.
Yeah.
And now you've got two centers on that. We'll call it that last night's third line. Not call it is. Do you need Wenberg and Hedl there? Can you put one the other? Can you bring somebody else? And you got to kind of toggle up and down the lineup a couple of guys, I think.
I just think my biggest issue last night, Billy, with being more physical was that they didn't even have a chance to be physical because they were late to every
They didn't have the puck.
Like, you cannot, if you're going to be late to 50-50 battles, you will not have an opportunity to be physical. And if they continue to get pucks deep, and Florida continues to have free breakouts, Matt Rempe's going to spend 5.5 minutes skating circles with nothing to do. And where I agree with you guys that he brings energy to the building and all these other factors, I just think that, this is the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, Rangers fans, bring some energy. Rangers players, do something, whether Trouba finds a guy, whether whatever. And I think that you need 10, 11, 12 minutes out of your fourth line, because your first line is going to take a beating against Florida. They're not going to have the same juice and energy when they're playing against Forsling and Ekblad. So you need depth to come through for you. And I just don't know if Rempe allows you to do that.
Especially, valid point, absolutely valid. Especially given that last night, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it was a pretty hard matchup. Barkov saw Zibanejad's line an awful lot, right? I mean, and if you're going to stick with that matchup, right? If you're the Rangers, so then that's a mega head to head right there. But if your line, the Rangers line isn't doing much, then you need something more. That third line is so key to make something. And I always say this on Bruins telecast too about fourth line. I want to see a 10+ number next to at least two of the three guys. Yeah, that's ideal, especially in a game where there aren't many penalties, right? That's what you need. That's what you want. But
I always talk about the Merlot line. You and I remember it well. Yeah. We both had front row seats to that Merlot line in 2011 and just how impactful they were. And then we've basically seen that every year since. We've seen a team with a really good fourth line lift the Stanley Cup every year. Yeah,
Vegas last year.
St. Louis
in 19, no question. They got to figure it out, though. They need to insert. I don't know. I just I didn't notice so many players. I'm watching the game, but I just kept watching the repetitiveness, as I like to call it, the tenderization process of the Florida Panthers. And I remember doing intermission on Sports USA, and I think the hits after one were 12-9 or 12 to something, but it was the type of hits that Florida had that were significantly different. It was all
Kachuk on
forecheck.
Trocheck, Billy. The Kachuk hit on Trocheck early on.
Yeah, all of them. And they were all, but they were 90% along the wall. They were 90% puck retrieval. They were all of that. Oh no, here I go. I'm going to get hit again type of hit from the opponent. You know what I mean? And there was that type of hit. So long way of saying the better team won last night. I mean, the better, more physical team won. And now the wall is going to be so important. For Florida told me, talking to everybody, if they win their battles, that's gigantic for them. Meanwhile, the Rangers, then you got to keep the puck off the wall. Then you got to keep it off the wall. So put it into an area you can skate into it, move it, and see if you can keep the game. More of the battles in the middle of the – if you can get to the middle of the ice against Florida, you can get some chances, especially from behind the goal line. Initiate it from down there where they're man-to-man they go to. Initiate it, bring it to the net.
Billy, someone that a lot of – and I feel like we've been a little Rangers focused here, but I just had one more about a player that I think you know pretty well. There's been a lot of concern about Adam Fox and how he looks, and if he's at, even close to like 80%. Last night it looked like he was definitely, not his normal self, and I wanted to get your thoughts on what.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Again, you guys see him. I mean, I watch and analyze the Rangers here and there, and he is so elusive. He is so
Lateral,
cerebral,
right?
and he takes the play. He takes the puck usually like coming from low to high, and all of a sudden he gets it, and somehow somebody's not. As I said on the radio last night, he's not the fleetest of foot to begin with, and the smoothest, but yet he gets it because he's a half a second ahead of a lot of other players on the ice. He takes it, he moves it, and all of a sudden the lane open, right? He shimmies and shakes, and he's right there, and you're like, how do you do that? How do you get the puck there? And it hasn't been. So he played his minutes, but it was different. He had a little more jump near the end of the game when the Rangers had a couple of chances on that power play. He was moving. But again, you see him 95% of the time, Johnny, it just doesn't feel the same watching him from the glass. Just doesn't.
Yeah. All right, Billy, look, I know you've got to go here in a minute or two. So before we let you go, I quickly just want to ask you about that Western series. And I know you've been embedded in the East. You covered the Bruins Panthers series. You covered the Toronto Bruins series. What about that Western Conference final is going to keep you up and keep you excited to watch?
Well, the big names of Edmonton. I mean, this is what you want, whatever sport you are. You want your top guys in, at the very least, the Final Four. I mean, this is it. What will keep me up, I guess, is can the Edmonton Oilers goaltenders stop more pucks than than they have, and Skinner, last game put himself in there and did it, and let's see that. But you have to, you have to consider that a major storyline. Does Ottinger continue to play at a high level? We've seen feast from him, right?
Yeah.
We have seen feast, and we've seen some famine from him in the playoffs too.
Yeah.
So now you got to say, is this the year that Ottinger goes from one of the most talked about great young goalies in the league to being that? And this playoff performances are where reputations are made. I guess my big thing is the Rope Hintz. I know I know he practiced yesterday. Did they come out with saying he isn't playing today?
They have not. They haven't announced him yet. Yeah.
Okay, so that
big.
will
It's a big deal. He's a
huge.
difference maker.
He's like, we talk about all the time, right? You want a number one center. Everybody wants a number one center. Go get a number one center. Holy smokes. There's not many out there. And I'm talking legit number one centers.
Dallas has a few of them, it seems.
It seems like it, but he's their big dog, right?
For sure.
And he's one of probably, I'd have to go through the list, 10 or 15 legit number ones, but yet he's hurt again. And how long is this going to be? And I think that this injury, if he's not back, despite the fact that Dallas has got amazing depth, and despite the fact that they've got really, three really, really good defensemen, they play five, I know, but anyways, they got solid D back there. I think it's a game. I think it's a potential game changer, and it allows McDavid and Draisaitl. And by the way, can those guys keep playing 24 minutes a night? Can they? That against the Dallas
if there's
team?
two guys that can do it, it's probably them, right?
Well, I guess, but I didn't like. I always feel weird saying it. I didn't think Connor McDavid looked great last game or two.
Even though he
But
gets 3 assists, he still didn't have that dazzling spark in his skating.
Yes.
So
That was his B game, just 3 apples, huh,
that's
Coach?
unbelievable. I know.
His B game is like what, third, fourth best in the entire NHL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
B game. Yeah. Well,
all
right.
I feel
Billy,
dirty
look,
saying that because
listen,
it's Connor McDavid. But
you're laughing, but we kind of felt the same way. Like, and I think people in Edmonton even see that. They're like, wow, look how good he is, even when he's not, the best player in the world. He's like the 4th best player in the world.
Can you guys think that they can take Dallas?
No.
I mean, I don't think they can either, but the Rupe Hintz injury absolutely gives them a much better chance if he can't play.
Billy, I think they can because I haven't heard one person say they can.
When
everyone has said Dallas, so I think that Edmonton will surprise.
You're using that reverse educational type thing,
like on Sunday night, NFL Sunday nights when the
we talk about
fourth
team. Lines. Tyler Seguin and Sam Steele have been a pretty good 4th line at times in the playoffs this year, and the growth and the maturity of Tyler Seguin blocking shots and making big defensive plays, like that's when a team is bought in. That's when you have buy-in.
Well, I haven't looked up Sam Steele's contract status, but like he's had like a boom playoff. Like, he's a guy that is doing himself right
everywhere.
Right. Everywhere. I mean, he's getting that advertising all the time with just that. He's getting one mention per highlight or whatever so good for him because kind of he's going to absolutely, if he is up for contract,
he's going to get overpaid.
RFA at the end of the year.
He's going to get overpaid. And then someone's going to get angry because he's not going to score and do what he did in the playoffs. And then we know how that story ends. So, Billy, we appreciate you jumping on with us today. You've got a great seat for this series. You're down at ice level. Catch him on Sports USA. Are you guys doing Morning Brew at all, or is that kind of on hiatus now until maybe free agency?
I only do podcasts in the morning that are associated with coffee. So that's the other reason I came out with you guys. Razor and I, as of today, we will do a morning brew if something comes up in the next few weeks.
Okay.
However, Bruins had their media yesterday. Nothing seemed to, when I say nothing came out of it, no earth-shattering type stuff. So I think, Cole, because I'm on the road, not that I can't do it like you guys know, but I think I have my equipment if need be to do one. But I'm expected to, I'm on the road for this whole series, go home for a day or two, and then head out back for the Cup. So I don't know, probably not. But then we'll start doing shows again in June, late June.
All right. Well, check out Morning Brew, especially if you're a Bruins fan or, they get into the Northeast. Obviously, the teams the Bruins are playing with him and Andrew Raycroft. You can get Billy on Sportsnet USA. It's the national radio. There's some local radio, but then there's the national unbiased radio call.
It's on. They are running it on. They're clearing it in a lot of cities, but also Sirius XM. They're running it on that
radio.
Yeah, NHL radio. Yeah.
And then you'll see Billy all over NHL Network as well. So this is a guy who wears a lot of hats. So we appreciate you taking the time with us this morning, Billy. And we'll probably have to bother you during the Cup finals.
I'm going to send you two guys. I'm going to send you guys, speaking of hats, Morning Brew hats. We've got limited edition, very good looking. You guys got to get yours. And then again, but the only issue is you have to wear it forward.
I can wear it forward on the show. I promise you. All right,
this is an Arizona Coyotes hat, and they don't exist anymore, so I can't really wear it. But
they don't Billy, for now, that's for sure. See you guys. Great to see you.
Thank you so much. See you Friday, or see you tomorrow. What an awesome guy. Very, very cool to have him on. Big thank you to Billy for hopping on, and we'll move on from the Rangers Panthers stuff. Let's get into,
you know what? I know the plan was to go into out west and go through a lot of the news from yesterday, but let's stay on Edmonton Dallas here because we already started talking about Edmonton Dallas. Let's tee up that series a little bit. And then we'll go into out west and bet, our out west team of the, news of the week. And then we'll go into our Betway at the end.
All right. Well, let's do Edmonton Dallas. But before that, I do have to give a shout out to our sponsor, Parasso. We'll make this our Parasso playoff preview. So this will be presented by Parasso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Parasso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at parasso-usa.com with our promo code Hockey15. That's in all caps, Hockey15. Colby, continue your thought.
Yeah, look, I think this is a highly anticipated game one this evening. Our Edmonton Oilers Nation fam will be boots on the ground. Those guys are traveling into Dallas today. They've all been posting it on social media. Tyler Yaremchuk. I'm sitting in for him on his show this afternoon with Frank.
Really? I thought you meant you're sitting in on Oiler Nation.
No, because Tyler is heading out to Dallas right now. But look, this is a series that kind of has two teams that are very different, have very different makeups. Where I think in series one or in the Eastern series, the teams have very similar types of makeups, and obviously Florida, asserted dominance in their makeup in game one. But you look at Edmonton and Dallas, and they do go about things a little bit differently. Although Edmonton has completely changed the way they defend, their sort of zone, collapse, protect the house, and then fan out and make sure you have that sort of layered defense type of look rather than chasing guys around the zone. But again, similar to the East series, I wonder about the defense of the Edmonton Oilers, and I wonder about the depth of the forward groups in Dallas. Ropa hints or not, they're still incredibly deep in Dallas. And then on the reverse side of that, Chris Tanev has been really effective against the other team's top line in the playoffs. That's why they brought him in. And is that going to continue against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl? Are they going to stay split up? You never really know with that team. Like, things start going wrong. They put them together. Things start going wrong. They split them up pretty quickly at times, it seems like. So, to me, it's the big question will be is how does Edmonton manage the puck, Jonny? Are they going to manage the puck in a way that allows them to stay in these close games with the Dallas Stars, who can get rolling offensively?
I mean, it kind of feels, not to the same extent, but a little similar to the Eastern Conference Final matchup, right? Like for Edmonton, a lot of their life comes from their power play, right? Like they have the best power play, best PK in the playoffs right now. And if Dallas stays disciplined, at 5-on-5, Edmonton was like not that special, I feel like, in the first two rounds. Am I wrong for saying that?
Say it one more time. I'm reading the chat.
No, you're good. I said at 5-on-5, Edmonton in the first two rounds was not that special, but their power play is kind of what gives them a ton of life.
Yeah, but maybe they didn't capitalize as much 5-on-5, but they generate. I mean, you watch Edmonton play.
I thought Vancouver did a pretty good job at limiting them 5-on-5 for the most part of that series.
Listen, Vancouver defended. They were tough. They stayed, tight. That's the thing with you when you see a goal where McDavid sets up Draisaitl. What do you normally see? You see multiple guys puck watching, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl just going to an area where the players should have been, but instead they're drifting because they're worried about Connor McDavid. So I'm never concerned about the Oilers' top guys creating offense. Are you going to get a little bit of secondary help in the series? Because at the end of the day, like Dallas's bottom lines can hurt you offensively, right? And that's why Dallas has scored so much in the postseason. I mean, they seem to be a train that keeps on rolling. And I always talk about teams down the middle, right? Look at that group down the middle. I mean, Johnston, Duchesne, Seguin, Steele down the middle. I mean, that is a stacked lineup. And obviously that looks a little different without Ropa Hintz, who would push Johnston down. And then, actually Johnston sometimes has been on the third group, but Dadonoff's kind of come in and out a couple of times. Fox has come in and out a couple of times.
Was on the third line with Johnston and Ben for the most part, I thought.
Listen, he just continues to impress people with his goal scoring ability. So that's a scary. Listen, that's a scary group. That is a scary, deep group. And Edmonton, although they've got the top, the bottom of their group doesn't scare you like that. They don't provide that type of kick in the bottom of their lineup. And I think a big question this series is Dylan Holloway going to continue? I thought Dylan Holloway started to really come out of his shell, in that series. And you'll notice no Corey Perry. He's not slated to be in the lineup this late in the playoffs. There's a reason they brought him in. Didn't he play in Dallas the year they lost in the finals? Didn't he go to Dallas on a one-year deal?
He was on Dallas when they lost in the final. He was on Tampa when they lost in the final. I think he was on Montreal when they lost in the final too. He was on three different teams that won in the final, I think 3 years in a row, I'm pretty sure.
Jay
which is
Thielen
wild.
said Dallas's third line could be a second line on a lot of teams. Yeah, I mean they really could, and that's the strength of this group. We talked with Billy about the importance of a fourth line, and when Ropa Hintz was in the lineup, Tyler Seguin was playing on that fourth line. You know, Pavelski at times in the playoffs was dropped down to the fourth line early in the in the playoffs. Like there's just an embarrassment of riches on that Dallas Stars team, and when Hintz comes out of the lineup, the ice time starts getting spread a little bit more evenly, you know, with other teams.
We got Doug Waite in the chat making the Mickey Mouse comments. Still, people don't understand that was a joke, but yes, this is not a Mickey Mouse conference final.
Big
But
E, oh boy, Corey Perry on mom duty.
yeah, the chat's getting a little naughty here in the morning. But with Pete DeBoer versus Knobloch, you know, this is Knobloch's first kick at the can here. DeBoer has been here now. What was it? 5 of the last 6 years he's coached a team to the conference final. Vic, do you have that stat? I think it was 5 of the last 6. But either way, you know, the coaching here, how much do you see that as a factor in this series too?
Listen, I think coaching in the playoffs is when coaching matters the most. You've got somebody who has to understand how to press the right buttons. You've got lineup decisions to make. I mean, we spent 15 minutes talking about Peter Laviolette's, you know, looming lineup decisions where he hasn't had to make a ton of lineup decisions other than maybe his fourth line for the last, 4 months. Now, all of a sudden, we're watching them play last night and we're like, the Rangers need to put their lines in the blender, right? So that's important. The whole preset to the series, the pre-scout. I mean, look, I'm not saying the Rangers were not prepared last night because I have a hard time believing that Peter Laviolette and Pekka and Muse and those guys had the team unprepared. I have a hard time believing that, but they looked unprepared for what Florida was going to bring. And so let's shift to the West series. Do you think maybe, you know, that could be similar with Dallas, where Dallas has a little bit of a heavier hand in game plan? They've been there. Players have been there. You know, Seguin's won a Stanley Cup. Dallas has pushed deep into the playoffs with a lot of these same players. So you have to wonder, is there going to be similar, you know, advantage to almost like the pre-scout and moving into the series? Again, you've got Paul Coffey on the bench who's been around hockey, who's seen everything. Knobloch is behind the bench for a reason. He's proven that he's a good coach this year. He got a bunch of Jack Adams votes, but I do think you'd give the edge to Pete DeBoer in the series for, you know, just the fact that he's been there, done that.
Yeah, I think you have to. But the biggest thing for me too is like they turned to Calvin Pickard in what, game 5 or game 4? I think it was game 4 and 5 of the last round. Like, can Edmonton's goalies really go toe to toe with Jake Ottinger? Like, I don't see it happening. I can't.
Well, listen, why? Well, nothing that we've seen so far would make us confident in that.
Well, yeah,
that's
why?
Something that Skinner's going to have to prove to us, prove to every Oilers fan, and prove to the whole league, because he came back in games 5 and 6 and he played well. 6 and 7, my mistake, and he did enough to get the job done. But again, like, you know, I talked about this with Carter Hutton yesterday on DFO Live, and he talked about the fact that this is sort of a train that Skinner's used to, like coming in, playing well, then not playing well, then getting taken out, then having to come back in and play well again. So there is some familiarity for Stuart Skinner with this scenario and with this situation. But here, I want to answer a question in the chat.
Yeah.
It says, Colby, why does Edmonton struggle so much turning with brutal turnovers on the breakout? And will Dallas feast on having 3 high in the offensive zone? So look, Jonny texted me about this during the game yesterday about how Florida reloads above the puck so well. Okay. And this is something Dallas also does. The way when you forecheck in as F1, once you make contact, your job then is to get out of there and start reloading above wherever the puck is in the offensive zone. Get defensive posture on the puck and then reattack. That's what teams mean when they say reload. And
it's a rotation.
To answer your question, you know, Mohammed, yes, Dallas will feast on turnovers, on breakout turnovers, on sloppy neutral zone turnovers, because they continually have 2 and 3 guys that come in, they apply pressure, and then they reload above the puck, and they just continue to stay on top of guys with their reads away from the puck. They're a machine. It's why they're favorited to win. It's why Florida is favorited to win. That's why I think we're on track to see those two teams win, is because the way that they continually are able to reload above the puck, they create turnovers, and they just put, Billy used the word tenderizing or tendering or however he put that. That's a great way to describe how Florida and Dallas plays. They just wear you down. They keep coming. And then all of a sudden they get that 1 or 2 opportunities, and a guy like Stankoven or Johnston wins a faceoff, quick strike play to the net. And all of a sudden you're looking at it and it's 2-0 late in the third period. So I say this about Edmonton all the time. It's up to them. Because they got the skating, right? Their decor is mobile. They're big. They're strong. They move. How are they going to manage the puck between the top of the circle and the top of the circle? Your defensive zone top of the circle, Jonny, the offensive zone top of the circle. If they manage pucks in that area, which is 70% of the ice, they will have a chance against Dallas. But if they start turning pucks over, between the top of the circle and the defensive blue line, when they're entering the offensive zone, we've seen Edmonton get loose at times, try to be a little too cute east-west, turn pucks over. Then Dallas will absolutely feast on them. They will have continual odd man rushes. They will have continuous quick strikes towards the net. And it will be a really difficult series for the Edmonton Oilers.
Can I read you something crazy? Just to kind of change the topic a little bit. I was just looking this up because it kind of like clicked in my brain as you were talking here. And I looked back at Dallas's record in game 1, going back to the 2022 playoffs. Because Colby, if you remember, they lost game 1 in the Vegas series at home. They lost game 1 in overtime after having a 3-0 lead against Colorado at home. Can you guess what their record is since 2022? They played 6 games.
I don't like to guess.
I know you hate when I do this, but I have to. It's just a way to bring it in.
Just tell me the stat, Jonny.
The Dallas Stars are 0-6 in game 1s to start a series since 2022. And I think there always is a trend that when a team plays a game 7 against a team that has a couple of days of rest in that next series, the team that just came off the game 7 typically wins, right? So that is a trend for sure. I don't have a record on that, but I know that is a common theme. So Dallas, I know we're talking about them having all maybe the upper hand, I guess, going into the series, but for whatever reason, their game 1s have been an issue. And looking at these scores too, all 6 of those game 1s, 1-goal games. Pretty wild stat.
But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What would you rather? A great game 1 record or a great game 7 record?
No, of course, a great game 7 record. But it's just something that I find very interesting that to start a series, they haven't been able to do it.
Well, this is why I always
for a really good hockey team.
This is why I always tell you that you can't panic. And it's the same reason why the New York Rangers should not be panicking. It's the same reason why the New York Rangers fan base should not be panicking. I sent my old boss from ESPN, who no longer works at ESPN, I texted him before the game. And I said, look, because he's a massively diehard Rangers fan, and he rides an emotional roller coaster. And I said, his name is John Vassallo. I said, JV, just remember, whatever happens tonight, no need to panic. Okay. Winning and success in the playoffs is not linear. It's not a straight line. So just sit back, have a beer, relax, ride the wave, and try to enjoy some of this, because getting to the Final Four in the NHL is very difficult to do. And I just said, it's not going to be perfect. And it's really the same thing for Edmonton Oilers fans. It's the same thing if Dallas does drop game 1. Again, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Dallas is going to win game 1 of this series. But I just think that, you can't get too high or too low in the playoffs, especially early in a series. And I'll just remind you about Dallas in the first round, down 0-2, down 1-0, and you were calling it a must win. And I was just telling you, take a deep breath here. And I know you get more emotional about these things than I do, but because you have to realize, like, they take these in small increments. That's how you're viewing this as a team. You're viewing this in 5-minute increments of every game, and then period, and then 5 minutes, and then a second period, and so on and so forth. That way, the task of winning doesn't seem so big and so unachievable.
Yeah, I mean, it could certainly be overwhelming, but that's kind of all the thoughts I have on this series so far. Do you have anything final about Dallas and Edmonton going into tonight that you want to bring up, or should we move on to?
Well, look, I think the last thing we hit on the fact is that you're talking about two teams with really good power plays. Edmonton's 38%, Dallas is at almost 30%, but the difference here would be Edmonton's penalty kills at 91.5%, best penalty kill in the playoffs, and Dallas's penalty kill under 70%. Okay. So the worst penalty kill left in the NHL. So that is an opportunity for the Edmonton Oilers to exploit Dallas, because I do think 5-on-5 is going to favor Dallas and be very difficult for the Edmonton Oilers. So
you were going to say 69.
Why? What did I say?
You said under 70%. Their PK is at 69%.
Jonny, I'm not a 13-year-old boy going through puberty right now.
Well, I thought you purposely didn't do it because you thought that maybe I'd laugh, which made me laugh in turn.
No, I literally, that thought never crossed my mind. Literally never crossed my mind. All right. I like to round up. I like to use round up or round down. I like to use whole numbers. I'm not,
I'm keeping you young on this show, but let's get into our out west worst team of the week, and we're going to do something a little bit different this week, but let's not be shy about it. There are lots of clothing companies out there, but there's only one Out West. Out West embodies the heart and soul of those who keep the world turning without seeking the spotlight. The everyday guy or girl who feels high quality modern clothing hasn't reached out to them. With that in mind, they've dropped what is set to be their best lineup yet. This weekend, 6 new polos for men and 5 new tops for women will be hitting the site, ready to ship. Get ready to look and feel great this summer at nearly half the cost of industry leaders. So join the Out West family with code Cuppa, that's CUPPA in all caps, for an additional 15% off. Out West, every game needs an outlaw. Again, that is Cuppa, CUPPA, for an additional 15% off. And what we're going to do this week, instead of doing a worst team of the week, we're kind of going to talk about all the teams that have made some coaching changes. So yesterday, the Devils announced Sheldon Keefe will be their new head coach, and the Los Angeles Kings took the interim tag off Hiller and announced that he will be their new head coach, while also Mark Savard got out of his contract in Calgary. Nothing confirmed yet, but sounds like he'll be the new power play coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So
I know, and Vic's all excited about the fact that Savvy's going to come in and be their power play coach. Let me ask a Toronto Maple Leaf fan this question. Why do you need a power play coach when you have Austin Matthews, Willie Nylander, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Morgan Riley? You shouldn't need a power play coach. You're sending out a bunch of the best players in the world. If they can't figure it out on the power play, then they need to fix their torn cartilage, not their power play coach, all right? Vic says that he wants to be the power play coach. You could be the power play coach for that group. So we'll see what happens there with Mark Savard. We won't speculate too hard, but what do you think of the Jerry Keefe thing? I mean,
you did it. You said Jerry Keefe.
Oh, Sheldon Keefe. Sheldon Keefe.
You got to call him now and tell him he got hired.
No, I'm not going to do that. I don't know why you think it's so funny. You're such a donkey.
Well, because you gave me shit when I did it. You were like, oh, you got to call Jerry Keefe.
Well, you fired him. At least I hired the guy.
Fair enough.
You're firing the guy. I'm hiring the guy.
And
were
for
you
people who don't know,
surprised that Sheldon Keefe came back
Yes.
to coaching this quickly? I thought he would take a year off because I just thought, the Toronto thing, you need a year. But it sounds like he got paid more money. He got a 4-year deal. And, you would think Toronto would be one of the highest paying coach clubs in the NHL, but Jersey gave him more money. So you rip up that there's no, Toronto's off the hook because usually you just have to pay the difference. He gets a new 4-year deal. They know he knows how to deal with superstars. What'd you make of the hire?
I just think it's it's interesting. I saw Mike Bartner, who does a lot of hockey content, tweet that the Devils job is actually a better like long-term job than the Maple Leafs job would be right now, just because of the youth on their team and the roster they have. And if they get a goalie, they're going to be a dangerous team. So we were talking about it yesterday, Colby, and Vic even said in 2-3 years he'll be coaching a different team. But I think this is a job that should be the I guess for lack of a better term, like the sexiest job out there, right? Like if you want what are you smiling about?
I'm just laughing at the chat. Like
The chat,
people
yeah.
they're just killing you in the chat.
Yeah. I'm giddy. Well, I can't help it. But
Why are
I
you
think,
so giddy? The Rangers got their teeth kicked in last
I don't
night.
know. I love waking up and talking hockey. It's fun no matter what. But
I mean, Alexei Lafreniere scored last night, so that had to make you happy.
baby. 100-point player.
Hey, 5 goals in his last 36 games. He's up to 5 goals now.
So you said I was getting killed on Twitter for that, but I didn't really see a lot in my mentions. I just saw Nick Alberga tweet it. But don't get me off topic. I was actually making a good point. The Devils' job, I think looking toward the future, right? Like they're one of the teams that stand out as having a very bright future. What, you can't even look at me in the face? Are you? What's happening?
I'm laughing at the chat.
Can you pay attention to me? Because in a minute you're going to say, "Wait, what did you say?" And then you're not going to have a comment, and I'm going to look like an idiot.
Jonny,
Reel it in.
Go.
Reel it. I went.
Start talking.
I already did.
All right,
Reel
so
it
look,
in, dude.
You're talking about the fact that this is a sexier job. It's a better job.
It should be a desired job,
look,
right now.
I understand why it's a highly desired job, but until you get a goaltender, it doesn't matter who your forwards are. It doesn't matter what your back end looks like. He needs a goaltender. He's going to another situation where he doesn't really have a goaltender. So I think the Devils will be really aggressive when it comes to Linus Ullmark. And the reason that I think that they'll be aggressive is because their prospect pool is pretty deep. They just signed Seamus Casey. I think he'd be a nice move, a nice prospect to trade. I still think Seamus Casey gets traded. I think they use him to get a goalie whenever they do, whether it's Markstrom, whether it's Ullmark. Look, I like Sheldon Keefe. I said on the show, I almost went and played for him years and years ago when he was a junior coach. I thought it was a good hire. I think it's interesting that McClellan and Jay Woodcroft have not gotten hired. I mean, I know McClellan seems to just continuously get rehired, but Jay Woodcroft, he had his big chance with the Oilers. He did have some success with the Oilers, but now he's seeming like he's getting passed up on, some of these quote unquote better jobs that are out there. And we're starting to head towards the teams that are really the only rebuilding teams. Am I forgetting? Like what coaching vacancies are left that are not the rebuilding vacancies? Because Buffalo got filled.
Seattle.
Toronto got filled. Now New Jersey got filled. Seattle's a good one. They're not rebuilding. What did I see yesterday? I saw something yesterday about that. I know Marco Sturm was just given permission to talk
I did see Marco Sturm's name too.
Where did Marco Sturm just get? I saw somewhere that Marco Sturm was given permission to talk to somebody. Maybe it was Seattle. Bialsma's in the mix for that job. Oh, it was the San Jose Sharks. So Ryan Warsofsky seems to be a leading candidate out there. Marco Sturm is getting an interview out there. But I think Seattle's probably the one team that looks like they can be good that's left. I think Columbus is still a wild card to me. I don't really know what or who they are, but
I mean, last year, dude, Seattle's one win away from the conference final.
When? Who?
Last year. Seattle's one win away from the conference final last year.
Yeah, I know, but I think that was they had a good year, and now they're going to kind of be average for a while. I don't foresee Seattle being a player here for the next little while.
But Colby, just reeling it back to the Devils for a second, we had a comment from Bobby Bow that says, we all know the Hughes girls ain't playoff material. I disagree. I mean, Luke, we can't really speak as much to because he was a rookie last year when the Devils were in it, but Jack Hughes was pretty damn good, I thought, in the playoffs last year. I mean, he had 6 goals, 5 assists in 12 games. Like he was very good against the Rangers, maybe not as good against Carolina, but like he also wasn't afraid of the rough stuff. Like, I think he dropped the gloves or kind of got into it with Aho last year in that series.
Yeah,
but I know he has like a little bit of injury issues sometimes and can't stay healthy, but when
if you look at Quinn and Luke, do you think their games translate to playoff hockey? I'm not sure.
Luke, I don't think we can really speak on yet, just because.
I can speak on the fact that I've watched him in the Frozen Four a couple of times, and it was a real struggle for him.
Okay.
And I know that's not the NHL playoffs, but
Yeah.
things got tighter, things got more physical, and he had a difficult time in both Frozen Fours that I was between the benches for. So I don't think that that's a horribly crazy. Obviously he's saying that in a
devil hating or way, or whatever.
Probably not the best manner, but
yeah.
I do wonder about Luke and Quinn and how their games will translate to playoff hockey.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, look, we still got to do Betway. We did S3tting over Bob over 25.5 saves last night, which did not happen. So we did not hit last night. But
also, is there a crazy storm happening by you right now, or you can't tell in your basement?
It was already. We had it about an hour ago.
Did you not hear the rain right now through the
I don't hear it, but we had it about an hour ago. So
we're
gonna do our Betway bet of the day here before we wrap up the show. And with Betway, they're still offering you a free $200 reimbursement on your first bet. Get involved. Use the QR code on the screen to create an account. That QR code will link you to the fact that your first bet will be reimbursed up to $200. Get involved with the playoffs. Again, I like the parlays. I say this every day. I probably sound like a broken record. I know we don't throw them out on the show that often, but that's when I do bet, how I like to bet. Please play responsibly. Offer only available outside of Ontario. And we're going to go with a Wyatt Johnston anytime goal at plus 162. This kid has been so good. He's been so clutch. I think to the point that somebody made in the chat earlier about Edmonton managing the puck and potentially having turnover issues. I think Johnston's going to be a key player in that because he always seems to thrive in that good F3 role for his team. So I like that Wyatt Johnston plus 162. It's juicy. And I think he's going to have a big series, Johnny.
Yeah. I mean, how could you bet against that guy at this point, right? All he's done is, I don't want to say he's even proven people wrong because nobody really doubts him, but all he's done is just continue to impress.
Well, he's just so young. And it's just rare to see a player that young, be that impactful in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I'm really excited for this game tonight, and I'm sure you are too, because it is an 8:30 puck drop, not too late, right? That's the best part about the conference finals is that on the East, it's 8 p.m. for the most part for the night games, and then for the West, it's 8:30. So you're not waiting up too late to watch the games. All the little kids can stay up maybe a little bit extra late and watch Connor McDavid. It's going to be a lot of fun. I don't really have much else, Colby. If there's any final thoughts you want to lead the show with, I'm pretty much set for today.
Yeah, no, the fact that I get to watch Connor McDavid before 10 p.m. makes me happy. So, look, just want to remind everyone, no show on Monday, Memorial Day. So we will not be with you guys Monday, but next week we will go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we will still do 4 shows next week. We're just going to shift from Tuesday to Friday. By the time we talk to you all Tuesday, there's going to be a shitload of stuff to talk about because obviously the games will continue to go. Everyone have a good weekend. Have fun. Be smart out there. Obviously a holiday weekend. I'm doing DFO live here at 12:30, and then I'm heading down the shore. My family already went down, so looking forward to that. And hopefully we get a little bit of nice weather this weekend. Always hit or miss.
Yeah, I'm gonna be sweating my ass off in Florida, but I think it'll be pretty fun. So I'm excited to head down to Florida, catch those games. If anyone's in the area, hit me up. I always check my DMs. So if you want to hang out, go to Elbow Room. I'm always down to have a beer with the Morning Cup.
And listen, for all you, if Lafreniere continues to score big goals in the series, I hope you're going to tweet Johnny and let him know about it because, hey, the road to 100 never stops. All right. It never stops. And last night was a good example. You got to get goals any way you can in this league. Okay. Actually, you know what, before we do hop off, what is your prediction? Just like for game 2 and for games 1 and 2 in the West, just like, so when we come back, you can guess the series or whatever. I guess 2 and 3 for the East. I could see splits coming on both sides. Okay. Again, I've believed in the New York Rangers all year, and if this series is going to go 7, the Rangers are going to have to win a game on home ice. They're going to have to, because they're not going to walk into Florida and pull too often that on Florida's home ice. So I think Florida finds a way to get themselves. The Rangers get themselves back in the series at 1-1, and I think I think I could see Dallas potentially winning games 1 and 2. No, you know what? I'm gonna say split in games 1 and 2 in Dallas as well. I think we're gonna start with 2 splits. What about you?
All right, I kind of agree. I think Edmonton takes game 1 tonight. I really do. I think the Oilers take game 1, and then Dallas will respond and take game 2.
All right, listen, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Bet all your money on the Dallas Stars tonight. You heard it right out of Johnny's mouth. He thinks Edmonton's going to win tonight. Go heavy on the Dallas Stars.
All right, and we'll leave you with that. Big thanks to the chat today and all week for bringing it. This was a great week. Chat was awesome. Big thanks to our producer, Vic, as always, and we'll see you all on Tuesday. Enjoy the holiday weekend.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.